Good morning, everyone. A wise man once said, when I was young, I thought money is the most important thing in life. And today, when I'm old, I know it is. I'm going to be speaking today on what my MBA did not teach me about money. When we passed out of our MBA school, we were all charged up. We were ready to conquer the world. And we thought we had it all going for us. But little did we realize that what is the most important thing, to face the challenges and to follow our dreams is financial independence. And that is something which we were not ready for. And as we went along, there were many money mistakes that we made. There were things that we had not planned for. A friend who asked for money and did not return it. A family emergency which happened and which required some money to be spent. An education of a child which was much more than what was planned for. Now, all these things were a drain on our corpus. And frankly, despite my MBA, I had not planned for all these kind of things. Mark Twain once said that it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you think you know for sure, and it ain't so. And money is one thing that we think that we know for sure. Money, we feel that we know everything about money. We've grown up with money. We've grown up handling money. So we feel we understand all the nuances about money. But money, each person reacts to money differently. We actually conducted a survey once, of a group of people, and we asked them, what if money was no object? What if money was no object? Ask yourself, what if money was no object? What would you do? And the responses that we got were very, very varied. The responses that we got were, somebody wanted to just chill and retire. Somebody wanted to take a holiday. Somebody wanted to follow a dream, a passion. Somebody wanted to leave something for the children and grandchildren. And somebody else wanted to donate for charity. So the responses were different. For everybody the responses were different. So that means everybody was driven by different things. Now I ask you to ask yourself, introspect and think, what is the first thing which comes into your mind when you talk about money? When you think about money? What is your earliest money memory? When was the first time you handled money or you got some money? What was your earliest memory of that? We are all creatures of habit, and these habits get formed from our experiences which we've had earlier. From as we go along, what are the kind of, our encounters with money? Did I have abundance? Did I have scarcity? Do I feel insecurity about money? Or I feel, there's always an abundance of money, it can always be got. Talking about habits, I'll share a story with you. You must have all heard of the Somnath temple in Dwarka. That Somnath temple was constructed in 4 AD. And at that time, there were no banks, there were no financial institutions. So people used to keep all their valuables in a temple, assuming that, nobody will violate the temple, nobody will steal from a temple. Come on, that's not done. And that is what actually happened for some 7 centuries. Till the 11th century AD. And then this gentleman called Muhammad Ghazni comes along, and he comes to know that everybody is storing their valuables in that temple. So what does he do? He goes and loots that temple. And he takes away all the valuables and ornaments and everything. Now people should have learned the lesson from that. But nobody does that. Nobody learned a lesson. They again went back and kept their money there. He again came and looted. It happened the 3rd time. And will you believe it? Over a period of 2 years or so, he looted that temple 17 times. That means 17 times people were going and depositing their valuables again and again. Why? Because it's a habit. It's very difficult to get out of a habit. But that is one of the biggest problems that we face about money. Money, our attitudes change about money. I don't know whether movies reflect life or lives reflect movie. How we think about money changes over the years. In the 60s, there was a movie called Mother India. It was a big blockbuster. Now what happened in Mother India? Who had the money? The village landlord. And he was exploiting the poor farmers. So what was money? Money was evil. The person who had the money was evil, and he was exploiting the farmers. That was the concept of money. And then there was this movie called Mujhle Azam, where the crown prince actually leaves his kingdom. He is willing to forsake the kingdom for his lady love. So money is not important, love is important. So that is the concept of money. In the 70s came this movie called Diwar. In that movie Diwar, who had the money? The smuggler. He is driving his Impala or Chevrolet, drinking VAT 69 and traveling to bars and to hotels. So he had the money, and that famous dialogue from that movie, which I think all of us remember, where Amitabh Bachchan goes to his brother Shashi Kapoor and says, "Mere paas paisa hai, gaadi hai, bangla hai, I have all the money, I have a car, I have a bungalow, what do you have?" And he says, "Mere paas maa hai, I have my mother." And that, my friends, actually changed the entire generation's attitude towards money. Money is not important. Values, family, money, that is what is important. And then we came to the 80s. 80s was, there was a movie called Kala Patthar. Now, who had the money and who was exploiting? The corporate sector. The corporate sector was exploiting, the poor miner and the coal worker, to the extent that they were even willing to sacrifice their lives for that extra amount of coal. So money is still being used for exploitation. So the concept of money is what? Exploitation. Money is bad. Money is evil. That is still the concept. And then we come to the 90s. 90s is the time when the liberalization happened. And suddenly we were all exposed to the world. Different brands came in. Our aspirations went up. Yash Chopra suddenly decided to shift the shooting of his movies from Kashmir and Manali, to Switzerland. Then this movie came, wonderful movie called Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. In that what happens, the hero has enough money, he's going on a holiday to Europe, he's following his lady love, and finally follows her to India, and he wins the lady love, but he doesn't need to sacrifice money for that. He doesn't need to sacrifice his wealth for that. Right? So that is what happens. And then come the 2000s, and this movie called Dil Chahta Hai. This is the first time when the protagonist, the hero, is comfortable with money. He's driving his own Mercedes, he's traveling business class, he's going for a holiday, he's partying, and he has no qualms about his money. Money is not bad, it is natural. That is what, and then the movie called Three Idiots, where what happens is, passion, if you follow your passion, success will come. That is what is important. Again, money has nothing to do, but success will come with following your passion. You will get enough money anyway. And finally, we come to the 2018-19, and when we have this movie called Gully Boy, where a young man living in a slum, right? He aspires to follow his dream, pursue his passion, and become rich. And what's his tagline? Apna time aayega, our time will come. That is how our concept of money changes. That is how our attitude about money changes. How we think about money. When I was doing my MBA, what was I taught about? I mastered in finance. What was I taught about money? How to take optimal decisions. To do a profitability analysis, to do a discounted cash flow method, to come to a valuation, all those scientific calculations. But how do we take decisions about money? There's a human perspective to our decisions about money. Whether I can afford it or not, my wife tells me to buy a car. Why? Because Mr. Jain, the neighbor, has bought it. I bloody well go and buy it. That is how I take a decision. My mother tells me to buy a house, whether I can afford an EMI or not. And I go and do that. So decisions in the real life are not taken in an optimal fashion. Money decisions are not taken in an optimal fashion. So that is the difference between what my MBA taught me and what it did not teach me. And let me tell you, I'm not criticizing any MBA program. It is just that I should have focused on something else more. Another thing which my MBA did not teach me was about numbers. We all think, I mastered in finance and I thought numbers was, boss, I am damn good at numbers. But do we really understand numbers? Somebody comes and walks up to me and tells me, yeah, I bought this property 30 years ago and it has gone up 30 times. Wonderful, 30 times. Now what does that mean? What it means is that you've got a return of less than 11%. If you look at a CAGR return, it is less than 11%, and there are avenues which can get you a better return. In numbers, there is this wonderful rule of 72. The rule of 72 says 72 divided by your return is the number of years in which your money will double. So if you invest, and we all have what? We have 35 years to create wealth and to invest. We start at the age of 25 and we retire by 60. So if you, let's say in your first year you invest 100,000 rupees at a bank FD or a bank deposit where you get a 6% return. Now in those 35 years that will grow up to 7.69 times. But that same amount, if I invest at 12%, it will double every 6 years. That means in 35 years it will almost double 6 times. The difference between a 3-time double and a 6-time double is I get 52 times. And a 15% double is a 15% return is 133 times. And an 18% return is 328 times. A small difference in return is making such a major difference, in your final corpus. Frankly, I was not taught this. I was not aware of it. That small differences in return will lead to such major differences in corpus. Now you decide where do you want to invest and how do you want to invest. I'll tell you another thing about compounding. A wonderful thing about compounding, which is basically, let's say if I was to give you an option today and I was to tell you, okay, I have 2 options for you. The first option is you take 1 crore rupees, 10 million rupees from me today. And the second option is you take 1 rupee from me today and that rupee will double every day for 31 days. So what would you take? What would you take? Anybody will say possibly some people will say 1 CR and some people will say, I'll take 1 rupee which doubles every day because I'm sure it will amount to much. But what happens? Do you know how much that amounts to in 31 days? Anybody can guess if you want. Anybody can guess that. When I came across this number, even I was surprised. I was shocked. I didn't realize that this is how compounding works. You can do the calculation yourself. First day is 1 rupee, second day 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 164, 328, you can carry on. In the 15th day, you will be at 16,000 odd. On the 20th day, you would have just crossed 5 million. Half a million. It will be 5.27 lakhs or so. And on the 20th day, you actually cross by doubling from 5 lakhs. If you double every day for the next 5 days, it will become approximately 1.65 crores. And then on the 31st day, it becomes 1.65 crores on the 25th day. Do you know how much it comes to on the 31st day? It becomes 100 times. You have 1 billion rupees. It is 107.37 crores. And this is the calculation for you, my friends. You can check it out for yourself. But that is how compounding works. I was not taught this. I'm sorry, but I didn't know this till very recently. I would have made far more optimal decisions, if I had known this. And the next thing which I was not taught was about risk. How do we invest? How do we understand risk? If somebody else is doing it, I'll also do it. And in this slide you'll see there's a giraffe who's in a pond of water and he's inviting the rabbit to come in and tell him, why don't you come in, it's not very deep. And what will happen if the rabbit gets into the pond? He'll drown like 9 pins. So for everybody the risk is different, it's never the same. I have this famous story about risk, a story which Howard Marks said. There was a gambler once who was always losing money. Then one day he was fed up and he decided, okay, I'll go to the races for the last time and I'll put my money. And he found there was a race in which only 1 horse was running. Now 1 horse running means, boss, it's a no-brainer, you can't lose money. And what happens? That 1 horse started running and leaves the race midway and runs away. So he still ends up losing money. So that is what is risk. Nobody could have ever anticipated this could happen. I'm very fond of reading business magazines. Now I read a business magazine, which forecasts every January what is going to happen in the coming year or how the coming year is going to be like. In January 2020, There was not, and this is an international magazine, very widely read. In January 2020, they did not have a single word about COVID. So were they able to forecast right? No. Nobody can forecast. In January 22, there was not a single word about Putin invading Ukraine. And these two events in those 2 years were the biggest drivers of change and what happened in that particular year. So if that magazine cannot forecast what is going to happen in the future, can we do it? Can we actually anticipate risk? No, we can't. Risk is actually what we can't anticipate. So we can't plan for it. We do, in my MBA, I was taught that you can plan for risk by doing a variability analysis. But sorry, this is the risk you can't plan for. So friends, this is what my MBA did not teach me. I wish it had. I would have been a better person, and I would have also been a much, much richer person. Thank you.